go through some basic techniques and applications. We'll start with some blocks. Alright? Now, in the last few years, we've been learning more and more and kind of wanting to get it into our curriculum with our lower grade students as well as our higher grade students that a block is not just a block. There are more meanings to every single technique. There are techniques for punching that are not for punching. There are stances that are not just there to look pretty for gradings. Do you know what I mean? Like when we spend a lot of time saying it has to be this long, this wide, front knee has to be down, engage the abductor muscles, engage the core, engage the hip flexor, back leg straight. It isn't just so that we can tick boxes for a grading. Right? There is meaning behind everything that we do. Sometimes as grade students, we don't know what that meaning is. And for a long time, I know that when I used to train in the previous in Shotokan, for 4 years, before we got our black belt, there was no sparring, there was no judo. We hardly did it, it wasn't needed for gradings, even in competition. There was no such thing until you got to black belt and it was point sparring, equal kumite. Does that make sense? As you know, some of our Shotokan-based katas, there's a lot of abstract movement in the kata. And back in those days, we never asked, what does this mean? Like, we just did it. It was not something that we maybe thought of. But these days, with the internet, with YouTube, with the fact that people want everything, they want to know stuff straight away, it's important that we don't just say this isn't important, just train for 5 years, have that thing we call blind faith, and then one day when you're worthy, we'll teach you stuff. That's kind of the way that maybe things were done a long time ago. In old school Japan and even before that, there might have been cases where a student had to prove himself or herself for a period of time before the teacher would start to reveal, this is what this means, that is what that means. There was a period of time we believe that somebody had to just prove their worth as a student. And I think it was probably not proven as in how many push-ups can you do, and how fast can you run. It's just proven in terms of, do you have the humility? Do you have a respectful, humble attitude? What is your character really made of? Does that make sense? But today, we've got to still have some of that component in our training. Otherwise, there's no discipline, there's no structure, there's no format, there's no formality in class, there's no etiquette, there's no respect, there's no discipline. Okay. Sadly, that might be the case in a lot of new age or current systems or styles. And sometimes you hear that. You might be at a tournament, you might be at a seminar, you might be mixing with other groups and styles. And what a person does and how a person acts in the dojo seems very respectful and has high level of etiquette and formality. But as soon as that person exits the dojo, it's as if they left their karate belt behind. As if they left the attitude in the dojo and they're a different person. And that's sad. Because karate should be teaching us, it's a holistic thing. It should be teaching us to not only become good exponents of the martial art, technically, physically, but more importantly, it should be teaching us to become better people. It's the non-visible sort of physical content that karate can teach a student that is most important. And I think we've been good in that area. For many years we've always talked about that, haven't we? I think every time we've got together as a group, there's always a point in that sort of 2-day camp or that 1 4-hour session where we remind ourselves of that. And it's a good way to ground ourselves. Otherwise, as you guys in here know, we get to black belt, and sadly many people that get to black belt don't understand that black belt isn't the end, but it's just the beginning of the journey. Black belt kind of means, like Rancho said many years ago, his words were, getting to black belt is like finishing an apprenticeship. So, as most of you guys know, when we finish an apprenticeship or a section of schooling, it's not like we know everything, it just means now we can go to work. Now we're going to start applying and using what we're learning. Getting to black belt and beyond black belt, it's always it's a day-by-day on-the-job training. It's the journey is the journey. There's no end point. So, have you spoken to anybody that might have said to you, oh yeah, I'm a black belt in such and such. and then through the conversation you might say, where do you train, how, and they say, oh, I haven't been training for 7 years. So it's kind of right to say, I am a black belt, if you haven't trained for 7 years. What's more right to say is, I used to be a black belt. I was a black belt, I haven't trained for 7 years. So it's kind of, it's who we are and what we do day to day, in the dojo, out the dojo, that makes us a good black belt, a good karate. Okay? So it's important for us to, especially when we come together in these kind of black belt seminars and weekends, to first of all remind ourselves of, of where we are and how much further we've got to go. Never sort of thinking that we've made it, we've got it, we've done it, we know better. Does that make sense? It's important that we always empty our cup before we enter the dojo. Otherwise, you come in with a full cup, there's nothing else to put in. So people, you've got the blinkers on, you get your hearing aids turned down. It's like, I didn't hear what you said because I heard from my nose, because look, I've got a black belt nonetheless. Okay. We all know that black goes best with white, it's the nicest colour on us, but we also know that, what does it really mean? Yeah? Does it make sense? Who you are means more than what you've got around your waist. So it's important for that, from a humility point of view, it's important that karate teaches and promotes those values of etiquette, respect, and humility, being humble. But these days, it's also important that we don't keep knowledge, from reaching our students. And it's not as if we've all known all this stuff for 20 years and we just thought, no, we're not going to teach you until 2013. It's not as if that's the case. We are learning. I am learning more now after, some 20-something years of training. 30 this year, I think. I'm learning more now than I ever have. And, senior people around the organisation are learning more today than we ever have. So if that's good news for us, it's going to be good news for everyone. It means that today's, junior black belts, as in black belts that have been in black belts for a few years, and even as right down to white belts, yellow belts that are coming into our club, they're getting to learn more than we ever did know. Alright? But do we need to know everything before we start teaching it all? No. So what we're doing is, as we learn, we kind of teach. It might be a drip feeding effect, but as you guys know, sometimes you'll be in a class and you teach one small thing. It's just one small application from a kata or from a say basic, and the students in the class are inspired. Not for just a minute or 10 minutes or for the hour, but they're inspired for weeks. Alright, so that's the beauty of what we're doing. Okay?